Good morning, gardening family. This is Mrs. Miller again, and I'm here with him. Hey, Koda. Hey, Koda. Koda's walking through the garden with me this morning. I'm just doing a walkthrough so we can talk about the who, what, when, where, how, and why stuff. So hopefully you guys are getting this on, picking this up, picking up my voice this morning. I haven't had coffee yet, so Lord help us all. Beautiful mop head hydrangea and my husband's tires. Don't say nothing about that. That's just guy things. So look at the blooms on this thing this year. It's awesome. That is a gift from one of my friends. Uh, she gave me this when she was moving. She's like, just go ahead and take it because I don't know what they're gonna do to the new yard. And I was like, oh my god. I haven't been past her house since she moved. I'm afraid to go there. She was my garden inspiration anyway for a while. This monstrosity is a limelight hydrangea. Everybody's always talking about limelights and this is a beautiful plant. This is the limelight. This is not the. Let me see if I can make it. I can't really make it smaller, y'all. I gotta back up. Yeah, it's taller than the shed. Um, but it's a beautiful, beautiful tree, and I don't really trim it. I just love it. I just love it, period. Anyway, we're gonna walk through the garden. Well, this is the backyard, so this is Koda's yard, so there's nothing beautiful about it, except for the random plants that I still have back here. But a part of the who that we were talking about, like who is gonna be in your garden, whether it's kids or entertaining, things like that, you really need to take that into account. Of course, these are the lace caps that I love so much. I have four of them, I believe, four or five. You can never have too many lace cap hydrangeas. In fact, you can never have too many hydrangeas, period. And if you look at the variation in color, I don't know if you guys are able to pick that up. Look how deep that gets. So, part of your who is who is going to be in your garden and who's going to be doing the gardening. You really have to take those things into account as far as who. So, is there anybody with any kind of physical ailments? I had to let him out. Sorry. Anybody with physical ailments that's not able to bend over, you really need to think about, you know what, I don't have to have a garden that's in the ground or I have to bend over or anything like that. So as part of the who, maybe you just need to think about getting a raised garden bed. Those are fairly easy because then you're dealing with nothing but good soil. You're not having to dig so much, and you have just this great product to start with, and you can make it whatever conditions that you want to and whatever height you want to. You can have some that are on stilts so that it's waist high. You can have some that are wheelchair height, and you can have some that are smaller. You can have whatever size you want to. Remember, I said gardening is whatever you want to do, right? Look at him. I don't know what he doing. What he doing? I love that pup. So, yeah. So as far as the who's, and then if you're a person who likes to entertain, like we talked about before, Rarely, there's a squirrel over here, Koda. There's two of them, and a birdie. He just threw the squirrel threw something at Koda. And so, if you do a lot of entertaining, then that's when your hardscapes come in. So, there's a deck, right? So you want to decorate that up through some pots somewhere, you know, put up a patio, and just kind of build around that. And you don't have to have a whole bunch of plants. If you're just a person who loves the outdoors, you don't have to have a garden if that's not your thing. But if you want to start small, start off with the places where you're going to congregate with your friends and family and guests and things like that, and then build around that and figure out, okay, so I want this space over here for when people come over for a cookout. Okay, you build that space, and then what do you want around that cookout? Maybe you want plants that give you more privacy, or maybe you want plants that just look pretty, or you want something that's going to give you year-round interest. Especially if you live in the South, you want to keep something that's always going to, I don't know, give you something to look at. because we really don't get winters here, especially the further south you get. Now I'm 7B in North Carolina, but there are gardeners, of course, who are deep south, which is Georgia, Alabama. Oh, something bit me. Uh, Let me go past this. So of course, they're gonna have to deal with a lot more heat, and they're not gonna have any winter whatsoever. So all the critters are out. More hydrangeas. I think this is like hydrangea row. That's what I was going for initially until my husband ran over 3 of my hydrangeas. So yeah, that's as far as who. And of course, if you have kids, you have to take that into account. I always make sure I had things that the kids could actually plant. You know, lamb's ear was the first plant, and of course herbs, so they can smell, so they can touch, and things like that. And animals, Koda doesn't bite any of my plants. He doesn't bite any of the plants. So I think I never had an issue with that. We had a cat. She never came outside. So you know, and then I think we're finished with who. Now what? As far as what are you planting? Uh, what are you doing it for? You know, and what goes on in your yard. So what actually kind of melds into the wind as well. All right. Oh, he's finally fixing. I'm looking at neighbors. I'm being nosy. Let me stop. But I'm old, so I'm gonna know what's going on. So anyway, so the what is just what are you gonna plant? Have you decided if you're gonna do vegetables or you're gonna do flowers or what have you? Or you can do a combination. Why not do a combination of things? So this hydrangea I saved it. Uh, yes, I saved it from being murdered by Lowe's. I love it. It bloomed it did a good job of coming back. Yeah, there's a couple brown leaves or whatever, but that's, from when I picked it up from the garden. But now you get all these lovely green leaves that are popping up. Look at that. And then I have hostas. And this is really basically everything that you see here is like a test garden. Yeah, I know what grows in my garden and I know what does well. I know my sunny spots and, what my microclimate is that we talked about. But a lot has changed in my yard in the last 2 years. There's a lot more shade than I thought. So I have a hosta here. This one is Empress Root. If anybody knows anything about Empress Root, it's going to get to be about my height, about 5 feet. And it's going to be 5 feet wide. I had it sitting in a location temporarily, but with everything going on between death of a parent, dementia of a parent, and COVID, yeah, your girl was not trying to garden. That's why scorched earth happened. And then next to it, I have a daylily, just a sprig cutting that I had left over. So, think about what you're going to garden. Hey, pup. Look at this stick. Look at this stick. Here, you thief. Here, you thief. Let's get him. Look at that. That's a perennial pup right there. He comes back and he never leaves. Okay. Have my Japanese maples that I love. I love them. You can't go wrong with Japanese maple as a staple in your garden. Anyway, so the what is, what are you planting? And the best ways to figure that out, to me, is research. Pick up some garden magazines, which they're actually pretty expensive. So it's better just to take that $7.99 that you want to spend on a magazine that may or may not have stuff in it that you want, and go get a garden book. So hit your local bookstore, go to the clearance section. They always have gardening books, and spend $5 there, and get something that you really want. Okay. Yeah, just panning a little bit. The workers across at the apartments are doing their Wednesday work in the yard. They always keep it looking decent. Okay, so anyway, so who, what, when are you gonna plant this garden? You get him, Koda. You tell that squirrel no. You hear that? Ain't he something? I'm just gonna sit here and let him play, and you guys can watch him because I haven't had coffee yet, and I think the garden is so pretty when after a rain. It rained really good yesterday, so you know we love that. So anyway, um, yeah. And so as far as the when do you want to plant this garden? Um, you know, you want the best times to plant are fall and very early spring, and it depends on where you are in the country. So like that's where your zoning comes in, that's where your microclimate comes in. So in the south we really don't have a serious winter, so you know the best time to plant bulbs, oops, I'm sorry, the best time to plant bulbs is actually in the fall. But what do you do when you don't have a serious fall? I mean, fall literally lasts for like a week or two here. So like, you know, uh, the best thing for me to do is to plant at very late in January. Man, you know, uh, maybe maybe sometimes I've done it. If I do it in like March or something, that's because I'm using actual plants, you know. So I'm not actually going through the process of having them overwinter or anything like that. You can also chill them in a basement or put them in a cold storage, uh, put them in the fridge. A lot of people put them in the fridge. I mean, if you have the room for it, go for it. You know, maybe like a wine cooler. I wonder if that works. I haven't even asked anybody. Okay, so this video is getting 11 minutes. I didn't want to do that to you. I know people have short attention spans. At least that's me. So, hey, pup, everybody's looking at you. Everybody's looking at you. Okay, so who, what, when? When are you going to plant this garden? And things like that. So that's a good one. The who one was really important. I think I really want to get that one out because I don't think people really pay attention to raised garden beds. Like they don't have to be on the ground. That they can be waist high. They can be wheelchairs high. They can be the height of your kid so that they can just reach in without getting on the ground, especially if that's just not a good option, you know, because when you're talking allergies. Uh, and then, ooh, another one for what? For what you're planting. You people with allergies, some people are so allergic to, I'm scratching y'all, I'm sorry. Some people have, so, you know, really bad allergies that come out here, they're sneezing. Sure, there's meds for it, and people, you know, you step out into the world every day and you can't control what's outside of your yard, but you can control what's in your yard. So if you wanted to relax and be outside and cook out and all those things, there are so many plants that don't give off pollen or give out small amounts or don't have the strong scents and things like that. So you just need to research that. You can have a completely non-flowering garden and have the the widest range of colors that you've ever seen, and you can do all that with just hostas and tropicals, you know. So that's something that, you know, as far as your what, that's something to think about. Um, so who, what, when, where are you going to put everything? So this massive thing, this garden was so much bigger last year, and the year before, and the year before. It was in its prime when my daughter graduated high school, because then I had, it was just massive. That's all I'm going to say. There's stuff I'm trying not to cuss. I'm old, so, you know, I just kind of let stuff fly. It just flies out my mouth. I don't know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, but it was at its prime because I just had the amount of plants I had in here and the growth. It was just, everything was matured and where it should be at that time. And some things had to change because, you know, some plants died or got damaged, you know, from storms and things like that. So you have to get rid of things at that time. Now, so who, what, when? So the when we just handled, you know, best time to plant fall and early spring or late winter. Make sure you keep that in mind and make sure you look at your plant labels. When Sydney comes over and for us to do our next batch of videos, I think we need to start looking at plant labels and discerning the information because all plant labels are not created equal. When I tell you that some are so detailed that there's no way you can make a mistake, and then there are some that are so vague that you will make every mistake in the world, yeah, that's That's why I said that plant labels are your friend and they're the best thing ever, but also, you can't always just rely on that because it depends on the grade of label that you get, which basically means how much you pay for that plant. Uh, if you pay, a decent fair amount for a plant, you're paying $15 for a cone flower. They're going to give you a nice detailed um, plant label, but again, that's no guarantee. Like I said, they're not created equal. It depends on the grower and stuff like that. Some just like, let's just tell them it goes in full sun and call it a day. Okay, so who, what, when, where, how? How are you going to get this done? Again, are you going to do a bulk of the planning? Do you have a landscape buddies? Do you have friends? Are you volunteering your kids' services? My kids never helped. When I tell you they never helped, they never helped. Even when it came to chores, like, hey, come on and let's get these leaves up. They would ball the leaves up in the middle of the yard and jump in them. So, yeah, I kicked them out. That was the first and last time I had them kids in the yard. I'm just panning. I just wanted you guys to enjoy the view while I'm sitting here talking. Nobody want to look at my big face while I'm talking. Focus. I have it on this little stand. Look at that, another lace cap. I got problems. I love my lace caps. I just love hydrangeas, period. One hydrangea I want to introduce you to is this monster. Ain't that thing beautiful? That with this panicles, this little panicles, is a peewee hydrangea. There's I believe it's called a PG, which is a huge one. There's a huge panicle hydrangea, or oak leaf as we call it. That was an oak leaf hydrangea I was showing you. And that thing, the mama or the original, look at my little stool. My husband got that for me. Ain't he nice? Because Lord knows these old knees can't be doing all that. And so I'm turning around like 360 in my chair. I love this shit. So this one only gets 4 feet tall. It spreads to about 5 feet. But the original, I think, gets much taller. I think it's more like a huge shrub, where it's getting like 10 feet. I could be wrong, but I know it gets twice as high as this thing, and this thing's 4 feet. So that's just big to me. I didn't need anything that big in my yard. Koda's being so good, because usually he's so bad. So how are you getting this done? Are you going to hire somebody? Try not to hire somebody to do everything. You don't want somebody putting the plants in for you. You really want to have somebody who's going to, maybe do all the digging for you and create the beds for you. And maybe put in some core plants, such as your trees and maybe some shrubs. But everything else should be yours. You need to get your hands in that dirt, okay? Look at him. He's plotsing. Now, I ain't telling him the plots, because if I tell him the plots, he ain't going to do it, because he don't listen to me. Okay. How, who, what, when, where, how, and why. And then, of course, why you're doing it. We talked a little bit about that. And, it's because you want to do it. That should be the reason that you want the garden. It's because you want to do it. Make sure you do the garden the way you want to, how you want to. The only time that I think you're ever going to have issues is if there's some kind of zoning in your area, or if you live in an HOA where they're going to be like, no, you can't have garden beds in your front yard. Because, there was controversy a few years ago about that. But I don't live in an HOA, and zoning for my town, they just really don't give a damn. They don't give a dang what you put, as long as it looks good, I guess. People don't even complain about high grass. I'm not saying that I personally do, but it's just to say. So I really just wanted to give you guys a visual. And I know, you got some of you who are really like sticklers about neighborhoods and how things look, are looking like, oh my gosh, she has apartments and then she has townhouses on the other side. When I tell you this neighbor is quiet, we've lived here for 20 plus years. This neighborhood has always been quiet, except for like 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, there was the previous owner of the townhouses really just had it as a slum. And so it was a slum for about 5 years. And it really sucked. He didn't take care of anything, but it was cheap rent. And so just anything moved in there. And it was just horrible, living next to him. But, I didn't play. Me and my husband did not play with them folks. So things kept quiet close to us, right? But then she came in and she bought the place from the guy and she completely redid it. She doubled the rent. She doubled the rent on us. So like, if you coming in there, you better not act up. And she believed in kicking somebody out, honey. So okay, that's my gossip. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop. I don't mind a little gossip. As I get older, I find that the gossip is just a little bit more funny now. Okay, nothing mean-spirited here. Oh, and I'm gonna show you. So I dug up this front garden bed, and then we're gonna get off of here because I need you guys to, not be sitting up here with me and the pup. So this front garden bed has been dug up with everything has been dug up that I want to dig up. So it's mostly just daylilies that are left, and then a couple of peonies, and then of course a beautiful Jackmanite clematis or clematis. Some people, everybody calls it something different. Ain't that right, Koda? There's some weed killer right there, but that is for a spot that I got to get rid of. So that is the 1% inorganic that I'm doing. But anyway, in that garden bed, I dug up, I guarantee at least 80 irises. Look at Cody, he got to come everywhere I go. And here you go. This is what happens when you dig up a garden bed. Some of them, burnt on the leaves and stuff, but they're fine. I just lean them up against each other for right now. Some stuff is blooming. That's a damn shame. Okay. I got hostas in there. I don't know how they got in that garden bed. I don't even want to guess. Daylilies and irises. That's all that's over there. And maybe the occasional lily. But I just love everything about this garden. Even when it's like this and things aren't done, I just love it. Because the bones of the yard, even though we did a scorched earth policy, the bones of the yard are still here. The bones of the garden. So I just want to thank you guys for anyone who's watching. Thanks for spending time with me. I'm sorry the video was so long. I really did not want to do over 10 minutes on a video. Because who wants to sit there and listen to me talk for 10 minutes, right? So hopefully this will be the last time we do it this long. I think the longest we may do is 15 minutes, especially if we're doing a time lapse. That way you can see the work being done, because that's where it starts at, right? Okay. So me and Koda are going to check out. It's time for coffee and maybe some eggs and toast. You guys have a beautiful day, and thanks for spending time with me. Bye, fam.